And we're live.
Hello, everyone. We are live.
Hello, everyone.
We're just going to wait a couple seconds for people to start joining. Here they are. Hi, everyone. You can tell us in the comment section where you're listening to us from.
Where are we at the moment? Where are we listening from?
But Francesco, I believe you're in Texas right now.
We are everywhere with the Salon de la Musique.
Salon de Musique is everywhere.
We are everywhere.
La musique is something ethereal, like we have no location.
Antonia and I instead are in the north of Italy. But I see that people have begun to join. Therefore, without further ado, hello everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this Salon de la Musique community call. My name is Nicholas Stark. Your hosts today are Antonio Comito, Anna Bolkina, and Francesco Comito.
Hello everyone.
While our guest today is Thomas Schwan.
Hi everyone, it's a great pleasure to be here and greeting all the listeners. Thank you so much.
It's great to have you, Thomas. Italian-German pianist and composer Thomas Schwan has performed as a recitalist in major venues in Italy, the Netherlands, France, England, Russia, Panama, and the United States. His long list of music honors includes first prize at the World Bach Competition in Boulder, Colorado in 2020, and the Honors Diploma at Monte dei Paschi di Siena Prize from Accademia, I believe it's pronounced Chigiana, thank you, in Siena, Italy. Thomas is specialized in the interpretation of the keyboard music of Johann Sebastian Bach and has recently completed the integral performance and recording of the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book I and II. Without further ado, Thomas, I'm going to jump into the first question. When presented with the infinitely expansive repertoire of classical music, what made you decide to focus on Bach's music?
Well, great question. Definitely, I felt that this particular repertoire, Bach's music in particular, was something where I could have something to say on a personal level. And at the same time, I felt it is a music that at the piano poses such fascinating problems in interpretation and so many open-ended questions and so much left to the imagination. It's an incredibly creative endeavor to do this at the piano. And there is a very fascinating history of the interpretation of Bach at the piano. And I connected very strongly with this tradition. And I felt I could very humbly say some, a small words. I add my own 2 cents, sort of.
What, throughout the process of throughout the process of practicing to perform these recitals, which are extremely long, how put together Book I and II, how long are they?
It's approximately 5 hours of pure music.
Wow.
It's very impressive. I've been in his last concert where he played the second book. It was incredible. He played for, I think, 3 hours of pure music. 3 hours no stop was incredible. And also I attended the first time that he played the second book a few months ago. I remember, and it's like one time in life opportunity to listen as such a musician and such an event. There is no many pianists they play for you the entire Well-Tempered Clavier. So it's an incredible thing.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. It was a pleasure to, and it's great we're here in the same city, and absolutely, it's great to be.
Did you perhaps prepare from a physical perspective in order to be able to play for so long? I'm not a pianist myself, but of course the other pianists here, the admins of the Salon de la Musique.
Well, definitely there is a special training I had to undergo actually over the years to prepare myself psychologically and somehow also physically to stay on stage for that long and with such demanding music intellectually. A lot of rehearsals for my wife, and certainly, on a physical level, not so much perhaps. Besides very healthy lifestyle I try to lead. That's it. And
do you have any particular dietary advice? Because I know, for example, that people who follow the ketogenic diet, they they usually claim to have energy that lasts longer, right? They don't experience the same sort of dips in energy that one might experience when consuming carbohydrates. So
that is actually a great question, and way more important than people sometimes might suspect, I think. And yes, in my case, well, I've heard great things about that particular diet you just mentioned, but what I personally do is simply limiting certain foods, certain intake of certain foods like sugar, added sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I realized this is what I have to absolutely eliminate from my diet. And I actually realized it back in 2018 when I was in the summer. I remember I was practicing the first book,
Mm-hmm.
and I was eating, ice cream in the evening or things like that. And I would feel, as soon as I started to raise the bar of my own mental performance and practicing demands, I started to feel huge problems simply because I was eating sugar, added sugar. I eliminated that, and it was a huge benefit. And this I kept on and off a little bit, kind of. But if I have to play a concert like that, I know for months I will not eat added sugars. That's the only, it's very personal, very subjective. Probably everyone has to find their own specific, the specific way their body and their mind responds to food. Not, I don't want to say this is everything, but it's certainly a very important element to keep in mind.
That's very interesting. You touched on.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Antonia.
No, sorry. I think that this is very interesting. You know what? Why? Because we know that performing in general is very demanding from a psychological perspective, for the physical perspective as a performance. But Bach is more demanding. I mean, from a memory perspective, etc. We know about that, and considering that these little details, like in your diet, for example, sugar, or these micro details can affect so much your mental performance. This is incredible, because normally people don't care about these kind of details, like, but I mean, we are athletes, we are like
Precisely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And there's one particular element that, in my case, the wrong diet will affect my psychological, my mood, and the way I feel, and will affect my motivation, and consequently the mental performance. But the first level that is affected in my case is you can even call it spiritual. There is, I believe in a perfect integration of body and mind and spirit as a whole in the human being. And if one of the elements is off balance, the other elements will go off balance as well. So definitely the diet has to be in place, and one has to know themselves, know that their own how they function. And there are many things in common between every individual, but there are also very personal things. So everybody should discover, I think, on a subjective level.
Thomas,
Mens sano in corpore sano.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great.
Can you please tell me one thing? We were talking a lot of times, I think, about this thing, and actually, I saw you many times. Here we live here. There is a lake that is really close from where we live, and many times before the concert, I saw him walking there at the lake, thinking about the music. And you told me that you practice more mentally than at the piano. So how important is this thing of practicing mentally, such a huge piece? Because it's not only mentally hard, but it's also physically. But you say it's even more important to practice with your mind than stay at the piano.
Yes. Great question. And again, here we enter another subjective territory where everybody has different routines and can try out different techniques. What I found out for myself is that, especially approaching the performance of such a demanding work, such a long and demanding work, such as one of the books of the WTC, the aspect of the mental practice is becoming more and more important. And mental practice in many levels, not necessarily hugely detailed mental practice. I did that too, like literally imagining every single note of a fugue beginning to end, and also imagining in sort of a mental internal keyboard myself playing, and slowing down and speeding up according to the need. Also, another kind of mental practice that is more imaginative and more free, and where I would also enact the feelings and the emotions and the kind of message that I want to communicate to the hearts of people in the audience, and I would also enact mentally a certain kind of internal freedom and patterns that would allow me to feel I was kind of flying. I really like the metaphor of the flight. I think it's a phenomenal metaphor for us as human beings, as terrestrial creatures, because we are bound to the ground, and our dream, since immemorial, I would say the beginning of history, probably the beginning of human history, has been to fly, what we cannot attain. So flying became kind of a metaphor for everything we dream most profoundly in our hearts as humans. Everything is contained in the image of the flight, and this is kind of a feeling I was trying to enact mentally, especially when walking. When you were meeting me there at the lake, I was probably not doing that kind of hyper detailed mental practice that I do in my room. I was doing the more imaginative, hearing the music, imagining the tempos very, very, very clearly, and imagining the sound and the feeling that goes with the sound. Yes, great question, and we could talk for hours about it.
I'm so happy that you are talking about this is a specific mental practice topic, because I think that it's something that is not so used, so common between musicians, and I think that many musicians give up on this, but I think that mental practice, also this hyper detailed mental practice, can be improved.
Yes,
it's something that you can train basically.
Absolutely. Yes, it is a process of growth. You can go through years. I went through personally years of improvement in that.
Exactly. You can understand with time that you can visualize everything in your mind, and you are free from the instrument. I mean, you have as you said, your inner keyboard.
Yes.
It's like as above, so below. It's like you have your inner world as your outer world.
So the piano does not exist anymore. So the piano is not something that actually you need. The piano is something secondary, right? So it's what you have in your head, in your heart, in your spirit, that during the performance. So that's, I would like also to ask you this. What is for you the performance on stage? Why do you play for other people? Why don't you can just record? Why you want to go and play 3 hours for everybody?
And this is something that I felt as an extremely important point in the particular work I want to do with this music, which is not simply to make a recording. Of course, I even believe somehow that recording is a separate art form. It evolved into a very noble and art form, but it's different from live performance. Live performance has its own specificity as an art form, and there is a special energy and there is a uniqueness in the moment of live performance that no recording can ever attain. At the same time, in a recording, there will be other qualities that a live performance very difficultly can approach. So
Can you tell us what some of these are?
Well, yes, definitely. Well, when you do a recording, if you want to do a recording, you will try to formalize the interpretation that you have for these pieces in a very in a very specific way. Very little will be left to chance or to the inspiration of the moment. And you have the ability to record, to correct, or to re-record, or to paste pieces together, stuff like that. That became part of that art form, absolutely, and it shouldn't be looked down. It's just a different art form. In performance, it is really the moment of the communication that you establish with that audience in that moment, and a lot has to do with the inspiration of the moments that will determine certain choices, even at the very moment. Of course, you will have to have everything planned and formalized as the best you can before, and create a very consistent interpretation. But then, for instance, the choice of tempo is something that you can still respond to at the moment. And there might be tempos that you choose for a certain fugue that depend upon that very moment, depend upon the inspiration of that moment. Of course, it's going to be not a huge margin of freedom, but that particular margin of freedom is still extremely important, and gives a uniqueness to the live performance that cannot be imitated by anything else, by any recording or
I think that what you said is very important. You are planning during your practicing in order to be free during your performance.
Yes, exactly.
In Bach repertoire, yeah.
Yes, precisely. Part of that mental practice has been exactly how can I go on stage and take off, and let go completely, and eliminate everything that is unnecessary, any expectations, how this music is supposed to sound like in different levels, and simply open up spiritually, and simply, I like the metaphor of the flight. And with this kind of music, I think it's either you do like this, or I don't think it can work on stage. It's going to be a torture for yourself and for the audience. You either fly, or it's better to record it, but definitely not to go on stage and play it for people. It has to be like some actual moment of complete freedom and complete expression. Yes.
I don't know if we can express this specific feeling using words. It's something so magical that you can feel just when you are performing. It's this kind of connection between performer and audience. I think it's one of the most beautiful feelings that I had during my life. It's something so rare, so precious that I think words cannot describe. Yeah.
But in fact, you said about the spiritual, how you open yourself spiritually during the performance. So the moment of the concert become not just you play to entertain somebody, actually, to entertain somebody for 3 hours, just entertaining is not actually easy. You have to create a sort of spiritual connection with all the elements in the concert hall, even with the chairs. So even the chairs, they have to I'd say move in sympathy, with the sounds. You have to move the hearts. Everybody's connected. So this is something that I would like to know from your perspective.
Yes, absolutely. There has to be a unity and sort of an acceptance. I would say what describes best is an act of embracing and loving, seriously, as simple as it may seem, of everything you encounter. From even mundane physical elements like the chair of the piano. It's very good to think that, and everything that happens on stage also has to be accepted and has to be responded to. It's more of a receptive, responsive process, perhaps, than assertive and rigid. One has to really be free in their heart to be accepting, and this is probably how the magic and the creativity, the creation happens at the piano.
I think this kind of creativity has to be also in life. Sorry for interrupting you. And you moved me with your words. Really, I'm getting emotional because it's something so. It's really. It works like this. Really, thank you.
No, my thanks so much for saying this. I appreciate and probably part of this. It's not. I don't think this is my merit as an individual. Is probably if anything worked in this sense with this music and reached out to the hearts of others a little bit, is probably because I've let go more than rigidly established and decided something. I've more created a space for myself to be a vessel, very humble craftsman, basically. And there is nothing special I think I'm doing with this music. Actually, nothing particularly special. It's simply to let it happen. And of course, there is the aspect of the effort I put into it to learn it. And this is to learn it in many levels. And this is another big topic. But yes, to go back to this, to the freedom on stage, this is something if I can share this, because I try to share this and to plant it in the heads of for instance, my very talented teenage students, is that the audience in a concert is not there to be convinced. Is not there to, you don't have to convince. Although very often pianists approach the stage and the audience in this way, probably affected also by the mentality that sometimes competitions leave, in our culture. Somehow, I think the audience is there to be led by the pianist. And if you have that freedom internally and that trust, and you are not there with clouds in your mind, and oh my gosh, I have to fulfill a certain standard, I have to convince this or that person in the audience or the audience itself, and ultimately I have to convince myself. No, let it go. Just lead yourself and lead the audience through the spiritual path of the music, and just let it be. Whatever.
It's just free flow of it's something transcendental. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
just,
a very
whatever,
valuable thought.
Just
Very
be.
helpful.
Let yourself be, and let the music be, and this is probably creating something magic. It's most likely.
You as a teacher, you're a fantastic teacher. No, just a second. Oh no, listen, you're a fantastic teacher. I know it. Can you tell us how would you teach to a student to let the music flow instead of be in a mental and spiritual cage because of universities, because of your competition, because what people might think of how they play? How do you teach? I will not say even the word teach. How do you transmit this way of feeling the music to your students?
Well, yeah, first of all, I try to do it modestly with my example and having no blockage inside of me in that perspective. And that's probably the best thing you can do, is to be a good example. I personally, on this point, thanks for asking, because I feel very strict. I even write these things down and I read them aloud with my students. I say, the audience is there to be led, not to be convinced. Stuff like that. And you need to relate this way to another. There are certain energies within yourself that you have to liberate. You cannot simply, if you cannot sit at the piano and play with a school or academic kind of mentality where, it's playing for a jury, even if you're playing a jury. And the best thing you can do, if you can play like this, even in a competition, that takes a huge degree of maturity and freedom, is that you are approaching even a competition like a concert, and you literally play for an audience to lead the audience spiritually in the path that you're laying out for them. Although you know that there are people there that have a judgmental mentality, which is very hard to digest, So yeah, definitely, I think especially with young people, it's very important to insist very much on this, and to find the words, find like short sentences, and short formulas that almost like you repeat like a mantra, so that they don't get sucked up and trapped into that other kind of mentality, which is the one that, you start to become judgmental with yourself. And this way you start to block your musical self, the freedom of your musical self. That is what has to speak. It's not the ego, it's the higher self that has to connect.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, yes.
But let's talk about this ego. This ego.
One second, because I think that this specific sentence, like the audience has to be led, not convinced, is something so powerful, is something so meaningful, because it's the basis of, let's say, leadership, is the basis of charisma.
Everything.
When you are a performer and you are doing your performance, is your truth.
Yes.
You don't have to convince jury, you don't have to convince the audience. You are leading through your personal journey into your inner world, and it's your moment. I think this is let our divine speaks,
Yes, and absolutely, and let go of your constricting ego. Definitely. And well, there is so much to say about this, and there is, of course, the traditional vision that you find in all major religions, basically. If I can take this little tangent, can be interesting. We could say in a modern kind of more materialistic, or if you want to say scientific, science-based vision, we tend to divide the human being in two parts. Matter, body and mind, which is the vision of Descartes, essentially, this dualistic vision of the person that has, spirit, or if you can, mind, probably from a materialistic perspective, and body. While in the traditional vision, there are at least three parts. Regardless of the fact if one chooses to believe in this or not, this is very personal. But it's a three-part division of the human being. Is not a dualistic vision. So there is at least body, the material part, mind and spirit, or soul and spirit, or spirit and soul, whatever, however you want to call this. And so this brings us to the idea that when you talk about art making and piano and interpreting music and creating music, there are two possible inner selves that are acting. One is a lower self, which is probably the more mental and rational, and that's what you can call the ego somehow, because it attaches itself to ideas that ideas that can have some value in practical life, in everyday life, to function in society, to function in the world, but are not very useful if you want to activate creative processes, and that has to be kind of another part of yourself. It's the so-called higher self, probably what in a traditional vision, or you would call the spirit. It's there is so much change in terminology according to which philosophy you want to follow, but this three-part vision of the person is something I really strongly choose to believe in, rather than a dualistic body and mind. I only have the body and the mind. No, I have the body, the mind, and then I have also higher faculties that we cannot really grasp so easily in rational terms. And those are this is what I want to try to activate if I do art, if I make music, definitely. Again, big topic, but it's great to talk about this.
Can I ask you one question? Really,
Sure.
I'm excited to ask you this specific question. How Bach music helps you to find coherence between these three different elements? How to reach your higher self through Bach music? What was your inner journey?
Yes, wonderful question. Well, I cannot not speak then, not talk about the fact that interpreting this music has also been accompanied, in my case, by a process of rediscovery of my own, spiritual and religious orientation, and particularly a rediscovery of Christianity in the most essential terms, together with Bach, who was, I think every single note in his music is imbued with Christian mysticism and spirituality. And so the point is, many of these pieces in the Well-timed per Clavier really are, to me, they evoke very closely prayer. I feel like there is a sense of awe towards something much greater than me, and there is a sense of contemplation of a horizon that is not the horizon of this world. It's something beyond, and then if you connect it also to the gospel, there are the feelings that many of these pieces are a direct, maybe not a voluntary, because it's not meant to be sacred music. Bach wrote a lot of sacred music, purposefully sacred. In the case of the WTC, it is actually was written for teaching purposes. But the spiritual density of this music seems to evoke, let's make an example. The F-sharp minor prelude of the second book. To me, that is so much evocative of Christ praying on the top of a mountain by himself, and there is a sense of infinity, and there is a sense of longing to go back home, to go back to the Father, to the origin, and there is a sense of the pain of being human and the love for human beings, for the love for men. All of this is imbued in that, and if you get lost in those feelings, that you don't have to be religious for this. You just have to get back into that world. It's not a matter of beliefs. It's open for everybody. For everybody. You go back to a certain energy that is there, and yes, reading
it's a certain frequency. This is
absolutely. So much, and there are even articles written about some of the WTC pieces being like passion music. If you go back to, let's say, the C-sharp minor fugue of the book 1, you do have a symbology there that is Christological. You have the symbol of the cross, the theme. You have the symbol of the so-called hammer stroke theme, which are the nails going into the hands of Christ, and you have the crown of thorns. These are the three main subjects. Again, the risk here is to become representative or representational and just know about this without feeling it with your heart. The point is to be able to feel this at the level of the heart, not much of the mind, but the heart. I think this music is really meant to make you go back to your heart in the deepest possible sense of the word.
Can I ask you?
The importance of Bach music in society. It's something that we, as musicians, we have to defend, because I think that society push us as a human being. I mean, push us to think in duality, as you said, and we have to preserve all these amazing tools that allow us to connect with our higher self, with the
Yes.
universal power. This is art. I think this is the power of art. This is the power of music. This is the power of this transcendence, and we have to defend this. And I'm so happy that you joined us today, because I think it's an amazing topic.
Thank you. No, my pleasure. And to add one thing is I don't want to that this might sound like this is easy for me. It's not easy at all. And actually, the difficulties that one experiences, to even to liberate a little bit and to approach this kind of dimension a little bit are maybe even more important than succeeding in approaching this. I mean, so I say this because there is no limit in one's age, for instance, in liberating oneself artistically somehow, and there has to be a lot of faith and a lot of optimism and a lot of openness in that sense. It's a process. The more difficulties a person has, the more somehow one is called to overcome them. It has to be. It's part of that spiritual growth is exactly the difficulty. I say that because it might seem okay, I'm sharing these things like this is like no, it's not easy for me at all, and it's a continuous challenge. And I do have an ego, like everyone, like very bad ego. It's
I'd like to ask
it's
you
not
one
like
question about
I'm
this.
free from this at all. Just to add that important point.
You just said that, of course, everybody has this kind of demon, let's say this, let's call it this way, waiting for us, preparing traps for us, especially when you're playing something like this incredible piece that is well-tempered clavier. You cannot only rely on your mental abilities and physical. You have to make this well-tempered clavier really exist. You have to give your spirit, but there is always this trap prepared of the ego,
Yes.
prepared for you, right? And when we say also we have to lead the public, we have to be really careful if we say we have to lead, considering there is always the ego behind. How do you protect yourself from this trap? What do you do to, remain safe from this trap?
Well, yes, I will start. Great question, wonderful question. I start by saying that a little bit of ego is there for a purpose. It's I don't believe in these theories that when it becomes really extreme, that you have to demolish and destroy your ego.
Fantastic.
To the point that you become no longer functional. I mean, unless that's completely your purpose, or you follow a certain kind of spiritual extreme path that leads to other kind of destinies. But if you have to remain a little bit functional, somehow that element, you have to feel that you are worth something, and that there is you're here for a purpose. And what you can do perhaps is to, as much as possible, is to put yourself in service rather than, okay, I'm going to do this only for myself and only for my career development. This is probably something that many people instinctively tend to have. Okay, if I do something, I have to do it for a specific purpose, and I have to get an instant return from this. So I'm going to do something great so that I can get this back. Maybe try the experiment of just doing something for the sake of itself, and feeling good about it, feeling that you have a dignity. So there is an element of positive ego in it, of course, because we still need to receive some kind of recognition. I mean, from our the other, you have to still reach out to other people, and to as an artist, you have to have an audience, a minimal audience, even if it's a small group, but still an audience you need to have. But in general, the thing is to do it for. Do not necessarily expect any immediate return from what you do. Probably don't. I loved, there was this great Russian director, Tarkovsky, for sure, everybody knows very, very well. But very important figure for me, actually, I must say. In his writings, he was describing very clearly, how when he met young people, let's say when he was giving lectures in Russia, in Moscow, at the Cinema Institute. the Mosfilm and all of that. And he was speaking to young aspiring directors. He had the feeling, okay, now we want to do just everything. We want to get paid, and we want to get paid in cash, symbolically, right away, you know. And I'm convinced if you simply give without expecting a return immediately, the universe or God or whatever will pay you back somehow, but in a different way that you don't have any right to determine. You have no right to decide, and this is really, I think, it's probably one of the laws of the universe that is, and this is what is being said in the Gospels, and actually in all the major religions, is this act of free giving. Just give, and then everything is going to work. Give.
There is one not so spiritual phrase from our friend that wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, that says, "Rich don't work for money." Let's talk about this. I mean, no spiritual topic, but this is true. Rich people, they don't work for money. So what you do, you have to do it because there is something that is moving you. You say, I play Bach Preludes and Fugue because I need to receive cash. Let's say, I need to do, I do this because I become famous if I play the entire Preludes and Fugue, or somebody is going to tell me that I am a good pianist. No, do it because you want to do it. Do it because you are moved, and God, the universe, will move things to give you something back. So to give, it's important. Give. This is the most important.
Absolutely, and the secret is probably not to try to predetermine what you want. I mean, because you don't know what you want. You think you know. You think you want this or that, but it's again, what is that thing that wants? Is it the ego, the lower self, or is the higher self? If you believe in that distinction, there is very little we know about ourselves. That there is very little we can know about why are we here and what is our purpose. The only thing we can do is to let go and let our faculties operate freely. Let ourselves be. So remove any kind of obstacle or judgmental approach that you have, or expectations, what you think others expect from you. You know, what you think the audience expects, what you think the competition jury expects. You have to remove that probably, and at least try it as an experiment and see what happens. It might be very surprising and very positive.
It is interesting what Antonia said before, that Bach music helps us to see those three dimensions of the human being, which is body, heart, and a mind, or body, spirit, and a mind. Actually, I don't know if there is any statistics about it, but what I've noticed personally, that there is a very high demand for Bach music, not even from the musicians, but from people who not necessarily related to music. A lot of research is on those platforms like Spotify or YouTube. People are searching Bach's music, not necessarily the clavier music, also the orchestra and like oratoriums and stuff like that. For example, Brandenburg Concerti, and and the Passions, and then the Messa. So it's interesting. I think it's fascinating, the fact that again, like since 1750, we are still finding something in his music that moves us, that is, even we are not musicians or have little knowledge about music, there's still something in his music, like Mozart or Chopin, that has that essential thing that gives us that spiritual impact.
Yes, definitely true. And people nowadays are literally thirsting for Bach's music. Definitely, I think what people are really thirsting is spiritual things, spiritual music that really has a strong content and a strong purpose of awakening a certain states of consciousness and a certain disposition of the heart. And this is what Bach does. Probably not, I don't want to say more than anybody else, probably is the most representative. There is so much spiritual music. You could argue all our Western tradition, all the music of all times has a spiritual component and the mystical, the contemplative component. Bach is just so dense in that regard. And he was really a historical focus point of the past, the counterpoint that came before him with new forms and a moment of universality in Western music history. And what is also legendary is his commitment and his apparent absence of ego in working. I mean, this is also something very interesting. If you see his letters, I mean, you would hope to find traces in his writings, to his wife or things like that of his inner world, and you find basically nothing. It's only do this in the home or do the accounts well. I mean, things of domestic economy and practical stuff and then there is this incredible music he wrote with this apparent egolessness that is probably a decisive element in relative obscurity, of course, in his time. Of course, he was very celebrated and very much considered an elite composer already when alive, but he was very much a worker and a craft. He probably considered himself a craftsman. I mean, this notion of the artist with all the mystique of the artist is very dangerous. Especially also nowadays for us, for young people, for our generations. I mean, maybe we should renounce a little bit this notion of the artist and all that mystique around it that is very much related to ego stuff. It's very much related to the lower self. While if you liberate yourself from that and you consider yourself as a craftsman, as a humble craftsman, you might just discover so much more potential in you. And also this so-called higher self is more free to operate.
But how big is the responsibility of the teaching system? Because you as a student, for example, you are constantly in this environment of, for example, social media, competitions, teachers that they push you to go there because you have to get the prize, you have to give popularity to the teacher somehow, so more money, and it's all this thing. What can we do?
Yeah, and I so much fully agree with you that all of this is toxic. All of this is deeply toxic. I totally agree with it. With this view, you mentioned competitions as a phenomenon that I don't want to necessarily dismiss 100% and say this is complete evil, but certainly there is an incredible danger in facing, in going through these kind of experiences without the necessary spiritual preparation that allows you to have a shield and to be involved with all of yourself into that. Like, it can be toxic and destructive, especially for very young people. I personally discourage my own students, not so directly. I don't really discourage and say don't do this, but I tend not to encourage them going to competitions at all. I don't think, at least before a certain age, when they are 15, it's too early. It's absolutely, the personality is too much developed.
Fragile. Mm-hmm.
No, there is a natural physiological vulnerability in that.
Vulnerable, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It has to be honored, and competitions are, and of course, I mean, we could say that all of these aspects are in a higher. And you also mentioned the teaching system, but certainly when it is a system and we lose contact with an actual person, you might find in a system that might be actually incredibly helpful to you. And so when the system itself is not good, of course, I wouldn't say it's general, but we could say, I mean, there is so much that could be refined. I'm not sure we will ever reach in this life and this world. This world is tainted by, especially if you embrace a religious worldview, this world is tainted, is fallen, is tainted by evil. And so there is a purpose to this evil, though. I mean, there is a purpose in the moment that you understand all of these things, and this becomes the very difficulties that you have to overcome, like being traumatized by competitions. If you go to competitions or even by the college system, there are people that suffer tremendously by this experience, and it's not necessarily, or the conservatory system, whatever it is in different countries. Don't victimize yourself. Don't think that it's over. This is being laid out to you by God, by the universe, however you want to see it, or by destiny, if you really have like a Greek, the ananche, a very, very impersonal vision of life, whatever it is. There is a purpose for evil. There is a purpose for for difficulties that we have to overcome. So I'm not sure I would ever want to reform everything and try to make it perfect, because whoever tried that in history, and all those utopias
failed.
not only failed,
The great disaster,
but you become an agent of evil itself. The very root of evil probably is the complete lack of acceptance of the order of creation, and the assumption that everything is morally wrong, that the creation itself, the universe, the world, the human world is tainted and wrong. No, it's not. It
has to be like a little bit adjusted, but not destroyed completely, and build the brand new one, right?
You are the one. We are the one. I, me, you, everybody. Act in your everyday life. You have a tremendous power. I think that's what you were telling me when you said change yourself and not necessarily want to change the system. Fantastic. You have incredible power, more than you can ever imagine. I think this is the only way. As soon as you start to reason in terms of utopia, you become an agent of hell. I think, and everything you do will come at terrifying consequences. Look at totalitarianism. Look at the Marxist utopia, which in all its apparently promising. I say apparently because it's also full of things that are extremely questionable per se, but it acted on the moral ground that that society is completely off, completely wrong, and we have to reform it to the point of a complete radical revolution. What did it create? Suffering, destruction, horrors, genocide, and a control. That's what it is. No, I don't believe in utopia in any sense. So but I believe in the good that I can attempt to do very humbly, and we can individually do in the space that is given us. Yes.
Just a second. Can I add something to this? The thing that you were saying before about that we actually don't have to fight the system. I would like to say, or for example, fight the evil itself. There is one very very particular story that I read in a book that is called Awareness by Anthony de Mello. He's a fantastic writer. That says, I tell you this story. There was a little boy walking near a lake, and there was a crocodile, mother crocodile, right? And this mother crocodile caught the little boy, and before killing him, the little boy said, please, actually was the opposite, sorry. That is the opposite. So the little boy was going to catch the crocodile. Yes. And so when he was in the moment of catching the crocodile said, please, let me go. I am a mother. I have my children here, and if you kill me, who is going to take care of them? Please let me go. I am a good creature. And so the little boy said, okay, I let you go. In the moment that he let the crocodile go, the crocodile caught the boy. In that moment said, please don't kill me. The boy said to the mother crocodile, don't kill me. I just let you go. Be cool, please let me go. He said, no, I will eat you. This is how life it is. There was a little rabbit walking near the lake that saw the thing. And so, please, little rabbit, the boy said, please, little rabbit, tell to the crocodile that I am good and this is not right. He said, actually, the crocodile is right. Life is really strange. So, okay, there was a turtle. And the turtle saw the situation. Said, please, turtle, tell to the crocodile not to eat me. I'm a good boy. I just let him go. And the turtle said, you know what, crocodile, is true. He was nice with you. So you have to let him go. But if I let him go, he will kill me after. And no, trust me, I will not do anything. Let me go. I go back home. Okay, the crocodile let go the little boy, and the little boy escaped and went to call his friends to kill the crocodile. So where is the meaning of the history? That this is how universe exists. The evil exists. We don't know why. There is is a mystery. We don't know why. So we cannot fight actually the evil, but maybe we can give an alternative. We can act differently. We can try to do our best.
I have a question. Who is the evil in this story?
In fact,
Boy, crocodile, rabbit, or turtle?
in fact,
I think everybody has his shadows. Then I think I want to ask you, Thomas, how, when you are facing something so perfect, something so high as Bach music, when you are facing these incredible structure, how could you embrace your shadows, your imperfections as human beings? It's different because the ego is always talking, is always chatting. And in my experience, in my personal experience, when I'm studying or performing Bach, I always feel this kind of, oh my God, this is too big for a human being. It's difficult to let it go, let your ego flows and forget about yourself and connect with your higher self, because it's a struggle. It's not something that you can achieve immediately. It's a work in progress. And how was your experience? How was your experience facing your demons, your shadows? How embrace your shadows?
Fantastic question. Very, 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 very deep question. Well, and I agree fully with the idea that maybe is already implied in your question, that it's not really possible to fight your shadow, or to, even to a certain extent, also to reconnect to what you just said, Francesco, is it's somehow even impossible to directly fight any aspect of evil, if you want to call it. So if as soon as also you outline this kind of process verbally, and you say, I want to now reconnect with my higher self, I want to, or let's say, I want to make my Bach be as spiritual as possible, and I want to it to move people, I want it to move other people, you're already abstracting it, you're already abstracting the process. That's already the back door, where ego is coming back. Whatever you do, I'm afraid I don't have a recipe for this. It's probably the only thing I can say, and maybe I did not achieve it, I don't know that, or achieved it at least a little bit, is let go, and if possible, be an empty space where things can go through, where the music can go through. So when you play the music, don't if you hear the voice saying, okay, am I doing right? Is this is how it's supposed to sound like? This is the worst thing you can do. The worst thing is to ask yourself, am I doing right? It means you are not being an empty space. You're not being this. There has to be a little bit of trust in yourself, in the deepest sense, in the sense that you have the wings, yeah, or at least, yes, you have the instruments, you have the craftsman, you will have to have certain tools, and you will have to acquire certain basic techniques. This is what you use, when you play the piano. There is a technical aspect, and there is minimal technical knowledge that you need to have, and you have to be sure you have this. Of course, as an advanced pianist, you have that. What is probably hard is then that there might be a voice in the head saying, okay, what value is this? What am I doing? Is it valuable? How valuable is it? Maybe the only thing that's possible to do is to forget that voice. Let it be. Don't fight it, because if you fight it, it's already a lost battle. Let it be, and simply keep doing what you're doing. If you just keep doing what you're doing and disregard all of these demons and voices, in all religious traditions, also there is the idea that you don't have to dialogue with it. If you start to establish the dialogue with this, sorry.
Also in Oriental tradition, the monkey mind effect,
Yeah, like the Buddhists say.
It's always, yeah.
You should not engage with that at all. If you start engaging with that monkey mind, with that chatting, chat box, and if you move this now to, let's say, the Christian tradition of these forces sometimes being possibly even effect or representation of spiritual forces in the so-called subtle world. If you should never engage with these, you should never establish a dialogue with the demons, right? Never, ever. Whatever, however you want to see this, let them speak, let them be, ignore, and keep doing what you're doing. Because ultimately, the difference between succeeding and failing is, are you doing it or not? It's not how well are you doing it, or all of these are abstract questions, are very abstract. So if you take Bach and you just play in the best way you can, so use all of your craftsman tools in the most honest way you can, and just do it and keep doing it. And then you feel very bad, keep doing it anyway. You feel bad for 10 days, keep doing it anyway. Just do it. Probably that's the only way. And it's a very much of a you said it's a struggle, it's a war. That's the war. It's the war of doing. It's not so much the war of fighting something inside you or fighting that. It's the war of actually doing in spite of anything else, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
inspirational.
It's like, for example, you recognize, you fight your demons by recognizing them and ignore them. Because if you don't recognize them, so you don't accept them, so you don't accept that you have, for example, that you are egoistic, for example, you don't accept it, you don't recognize that there is a problem.
Indeed.
You give power to those demons. But if you recognize them and you ignore them without say interagire, come si dice interacting with them, maybe there are chances that you.
This is the main law. Energy goes where attention goes. Then, if you are shifting your perception when you want to that your energy go, I think this is the key.
Yes, absolutely. And also, if I may reconnect with that, is one thing that I happened sometimes to tell some of my students is, I'm sorry, this is not meant for you to have a nice experience. It's not meant for you to be happy or to be of course, there is a reward in this, but it is essentially war. You just have to do, and that's it. You have to complete the task. You have to get to go on stage and play. Period. This is very harsh, apparently, but it's also very liberating if you know that that's the battlefield is actually doing.
It's cathartic.
Sorry.
Catharsis is
cathartic. It's purifying. It's liberating. Yes, absolutely. Cathartic and absolutely. And then you will have whatever voice. I mean, unless you want to make happiness as the goal. I don't think happiness is a worthwhile goal in life. Honestly, I don't know what you all guys think, but per se, it's a very abstract idea. And also, I think to actually be and let yourself be with all the imperfections, whatever it is, and do the thing you're doing is a much more worthwhile goal than being happy because of it. Like eliminate that out of your perspective, especially as an artist. I mean, honestly, if I have to say the effort I put into this work, the Well-Tempered Clavier, for example, there is a reward, but the amount of effort and struggle is way bigger, and somehow suffering too is way bigger than the reward I can feel. That reward is still worthwhile, but I still, I still suffered somehow more than how I enjoyed it. I mean, and in a deep sense, in a very deep sense, that's how it is. And it's more of a soldier-like mentality. I think this is actually way more fulfilling. Is human beings are here, in my opinion. I don't want to say this as, I'm not the authority in that, but I suspect that we are here on this planet to fight and to do and to make more than to be fulfilled. You see, if you also shift that perspective, it can also liberate you us. It can liberate us. There is a generic you, I'm not referring to anybody in particular, maybe can help us liberate from that thing of the ego, which again, if you fight by, okay, I'm going to fight my ego because I don't want to be egoistic, that's another way to get trapped in.
Exactly.
Just like, yes, like
all many religious, I think
is nurturing.
They do this kind of
all the Christian, the saints, in the life of the saints, that's like a primary thing. You have to remain humble in the real sense. There is more danger.
Who is more humble between me and you?
Yeah, humility is another, like the ideal of humility is another way that the devil haunts you. I mean,
Yeah.
you will be a great saint. You will be so. Yeah, it's very interesting in the biographies of these people how they found a way to overcome that. Also, yes, and
It's so interesting that you put it in this way, because like I arrived to this thought, thinking that when you're doing like sports, or if you do the learning a new repertoire, or even working on an old repertoire, and the people tell you, oh, but it's like, think about like what motivates you, think about the ultimate result. And I'm thinking, no, even with the ultimate result, even when I will arrive where I want to arrive, like looking back and seeing like the amount of work I've done, I don't feel happy about the result. I mean, even though it is rewarding, but it's still painful because like I'm looking to the next goal, and I know how much effort I need to do to arrive to that goal. And it's like, okay, here we go. Let's do it.
yes, absolutely. And also to connect to what Antonia said about how to approach something so transcendent and so great as Bach's music, it can only be approximated ultimately, and particularly
Yeah.
that music. But that music is especially the second book. I must say, I had this experience. There is an elusive quality to it, and there is something almost labyrinthic and impenetrable that you really feel this is somehow the music of the spheres. It's something that no performer can ultimately realize. Really, and it's painful, but it's also very liberating, because you know that your job here, and to reconnect to what just Anna said, your job is to do more than to enjoy the results of what you do, is to actually do. This is our life on this planet. We are trapped into becoming. There is no way to achieve. This is for the other life. If you are religious, it's you should project. That's why I think it's important to maintain a transcendent view in whatever form, but do not only be content with the horizon of actual earthly life, because this is helps you to project your purpose beyond. You know that there is no way to realize everything here. It will be always not enough. It will be always, especially for artists, and artists will be always unhappy if you think you can realize your ideal of your art making while you're alive. It's the recipe for unhappiness, for misery. Definitely, you have to find contentment in just doing, and if I may quote the gospel, if I may, the idea of the useless servant. There is very powerful. There is a point when Christ says, you don't seek reward for the fact that you serve me, that you serve God. There is no point. You're not here to be rewarded. You're here to serve. Very liberating, and very deeply spiritual problem. And it's great to talk about this.
I think we should also listen to the music. I mean, we are talking too much, but we have the videos where Thomas Schwan performs World Bach Competition Book 1 and Book 2. So now go to the description of the video. We will put in the description the link if it's not already there, and go and listen. Both books of World Bach Competition. Take your time.
5 hours.
No, really. If you listen,
And just do it.
Just a second. It's the magic is not in listening one and that's it. You do your things and you come back and maybe listen another one on your car. Take your time. Take time for yourself. If you cannot find a few hours for your time, I mean, you are in trouble. Find some time for you, for your spirit, and listen from the first to the last of the first book. I don't say both books, but the first book, and after the second book, you will find really something in that you cannot find somewhere else. Do it before we start. Before we. I mean,
Thank you.
It's really important. I listened to this concert that really moved me so much. You have no idea. I've been there personally, and I listened to 3 hours of music. I said to Thomas, I said this, if I can say, God to the angel said, when you go to the earth, you will not listen to my voice again anymore. How can we listen to your voice if you don't speak with us? And you can listen to my voice to when you listen, for example, to the wind, you listen to the water, you listen when you see a beautiful paisage, when you look to the mountains, and also when you listen to Thomas Schwan music. So go and listen to the video.
Very kind as always.
Thomas, I want to thank you for sharing everything you've talked about today. The spiritual perspective you've brought is both very rare and very valuable. I feel like we've gone on a journey inside the soul of music. Before bringing this episode to a close, I want to ask you one more question, perhaps a more pragmatic one. In 2022, going on 2023, how important do you believe it is for classical musicians to have an online presence? We know you've shared your recordings online, and is this something that you encourage other musicians to do?
Absolutely, yes. Actually, I think this, with all the evil aspects that technology has in our time, that we have to be very well aware of, and the danger that is there, just like every other product of humans. I mean, there are terrifyingly dangerous aspects, but
I think these aspects exist because humans always have a tendency to potentially abuse something, right? Tools can be used for good or they can be used for evil. And actually on this topic, there is a documentary called The Social Dilemma that I encourage everybody to watch, that talks about social media and how it affects us.
Yes, and certainly, that aspect of social media is again, if we go back to the ego, is really can help in dragging somebody, especially a young person, maybe a teenager, especially teenagers, down into the abyss, the abysmal aspects of ego, and very hard then to manage. No, it is certainly full of but it's also a fantastic tool when you are mature and you have something to say, you have something to say and you want to share this. It is, I would say, is probably one of the best possible things that can happen. For me, it was very important to share this on YouTube over the last 3 years. And I reached out to so many people that then reached out to me and made new friends. I'm in contact with some phenomenal people with whom I established a real deep communication, authentic communication. One of them, for instance, there is this wonderful British poet that reached out to me. His name is Will Stone. And incredible artist in his field, and just I was so honored, for that. It means way beyond the pure aspect of music, and it definitely is something that I strongly encourage. Maybe a good thing to do is to do it in a very, you need to have the awareness that allows you not to fall trap to, okay, I'm doing this because I want to be, I just want to be great, or I want to be visible, which is a temptation. You have to wait for your time. You have to, there is the right time for everything. You need to be patient and to develop, first of all, your artistic personality, develop very deeply your artistic personality, and then use the tools that are available to us to go global. Yes, well, absolutely. You don't stay in the closet. This is not something I would say, just definitely this is the way today to reach out, and we need to, also, if we do that, we are also somehow we are transforming this. We are really showing that we can use technology in a way that is healthy, that is spiritual, that is fostering good, that is not destructive, that is not, and so we counteract the bad aspects of technology also by
understanding that technology is a tool that augments human connection. This is the real meaning of technology. It's not something that is meant to augment ego, to augment a lower aspect of our essence. It's just exalting connection.
Yes, it's up to us to use it the proper way.
Yeah, I like, Thomas, how you said that one has to develop his or her artistic personality before sharing this content online, and then once it is developed, then the online tools become a lever to increase.
I don't want to absolutely don't want to be dogmatic with that and say that like there's still good in sharing. If someone is very young, and but certainly with the purpose of sharing a moment of beauty, of music, and to share your own message. If you just do that because, okay, I just want to be visible, I just want to,
it's seeking attention.
Yes, exactly. That's
The goal has to be to share art and not to just seek attention.
Precisely.
And I think this transforms what you share, right? It's what happens is that you create something that is your own to share it, and you don't instead create something that you believe will be successful and will draw attention to share it.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Meet the Artist with Thomas Schwan. We look forward to seeing you next time. But before then, a big thank you to our sponsor, the Hotel Khmer Club.
Are you a classical musician? What if your performances could be seen by
But we're live.
thousands of
We're still
people
live.
without you ever having to leave your home? Your time has come. Message Le Salon de la Musique. Our mission is to connect classical musicians to their audiences all around the world so that this wonderful art may flourish. A global audience is waiting for you. Write us now.